But I believe that most people, anybody that's working or anything, I think there's going to be a recession this side of Christmas at the way they're going.
Yeah.
Because consumer confidence will completely and utterly go.
Yeah.
And therefore, nobody will be spending money in businesses in any shape or form. And I think it's only going to go one way. Everybody, what money people have got, they frighten themselves and they'll just say, well, I won't be spending it.
Well, bang goes the old Christmas bonus for a start.
Well, that's it. And I think it won't be the fattest car for Christmas. I think you'll be lucky if you get bread and cheese for Christmas.
Well, as my father used to say, it'll be the year of the short corn.
Yeah, I think it will be.
That's what are we having for Christmas dinner? I thought we might open a can of beans because it's all we can afford.
Well, that'll be about it.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, isn't it, David? Thank you very much indeed. I mean, we kind of knew it would be like this, so it doesn't come as any great surprise. But for heaven's sake, absolutely extraordinary. Let's get a voice note from Brian.
Morning, Mike. Brian from South End here. Just on the
Brian.
He said no one can ask questions to the Prime Minister about the Southport and how much they knew. What happened to parliamentary privilege? This is the shambles. Starmer knows it, and he knows this is going to be his downfall.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. He's terrified. And what sort of a man doesn't want to be asked a question? He's meant to be a lawyer. Surely to heavens, if you want to not answer a question, you can manage to avoid it. I mean, he did it yesterday with Richard Tice anyway, but you could see from his face, he really hates the Reform guys. He just hates them. He thinks they're all horrible, nasty, right-wing bigots, horrible people. I don't see why I have to share a room with them. Why should they have the right to speak to me the way that they do? Well, because that's called democracy, matey. And it's not North Korea, and it's not that Czechoslovakian, work camp you went to when you were 23 either. The man cannot do his job. And he can't handle criticism, and he doesn't know what to say to people. So he goes to see the speaker and says, can you make sure nobody asks us any questions about this, please? That would be nice, very nice for you. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, I'm going to tell you why you can't sing What Should We Do With a Drunken Sailor anymore, because apparently it's not woke enough. So he's not called the Drunken Sailor anymore. They're going to call him something else. Also, how about this? Bar Black Sheep. The lines in that have been changed, not because it's black, but because the little boy who lives down the lane has been revised to the baby who lives down the lane because it's gender neutral. What's going on? Help! Help! We're going to talk about Trump coming up in the garbage truck. That'll be fun.
Mike Graham, Morning Radio.
But it's like, well, yes.
Yeah.
Ordinary is 1p a pint cheaper. Is that going to really change your life? I don't know.
Well, I think if you consider that they did campaign on that they would achieve growth, that they would grow us out of the problems that we have, that's fine, and I accept that that probably is the only way to get out of all of the issues that we have. This isn't going to deliver growth. I don't believe it's going to deliver growth. I think it's going to stifle growth, and that's the gamble.
It might deliver a better NHS.
It's not going to deliver a better NHS because the NHS needs root and branch reform. It's savable, completely savable, and I do believe that. But throwing more money into the NHS is going to change nothing, I guarantee.
Well, apart from the fact, I mean, Wes Streeted, all this plan about all this new technology he wants to bring in and all the rest of it, which would be very good. But presumably some of this...
It's like watering a plant. What's dying with expensive water.
On introducing new technology. It's so appalling, the billions that have been wasted, and it's because it's so disjointed in all of the systems. In GP now, we have
don't use tap water to water that dying plant. Use this expensive water from the Antarctic.
We keep hearing this word hubs. This is not a new idea.
But it doesn't matter what water is and how expensive the water is, the plant's still going to die. Not going to recover.
Years ago I did in lots of different departments, and even now people are still using paper records. There's a medical records room in hospitals. Nothing. The digitalisation of data is a massive undertaking, and all Wes Streeting is talking about is things like, AI is going to make sure that people don't miss appointments. It's words. But it's words. Like fundamental. Also,
I'm desperately trying to cling on to some hope here. Neither of you are helping.
In terms of health and social care, Dr. Ray, what would you have liked to have heard yesterday?
I actually think we need to bring the care system and the NHS together. That it needs to be one big system, one big pot of money, because once it is, people will start taking the care system seriously. We have a massive problem with an elderly population that's getting sicker. It might be great that people are living longer, but they're not living better lives. They're getting sicker and they need care. It's the biggest drain that we have now, and it's also the biggest stop on people moving from hospital. 13,000 people as we sit here are sitting in hospital that don't need to be there. We need the budget to be one, and we need to address it as one. Treat carers with the respect that they deserve, doing the most important job, I think, in society. Yeah.
Nikki, something totally different in the start. Ghosts only live for 100 years.
Oh my goodness, I don't really know what to make of this story. Well, apparently, the ghosts that used to be around are fading out, and new ghosts are very young, according to some paranormal investigators. And this kind of baffles me, because isn't the whole point of ghosts that they're ageless, interminable?
I'm very confused by it.
I mean, well, it's really apparently to do with sightings. There are fewer sightings reported of ghosts.
Is that because we're less gullible?
Well, that's what I think. Yeah.
Is it also because we're less religious?
I also think that.
You know, so we don't talk to people about the afterlife and heaven.
No, I mean, the Victorians were, you know, obsessed with saleses and ghosts and, you know, people in walls and all that kind of stuff. But I think back to when I was a kid and you go to an historic building and there'd always be someone saying there's a ghost that lives here.
Well, I know, you like to think that, don't you? Right, you two, thank you. We're having a slightly earlier break because we're back with the Chancellor in just a second.
Let's have a look at
Common sense, 24 hours a day.
Flies.
Exactly.
And Harry is... This is talk. Converting negative agitation into positive conversation across the nation. See it, hear it. This is talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:53. We're here all the way through till 10 o'clock. Of course, Alex Phillips in for Julia Hartley-Brewer just before that. No fireworks, no Halloween now. Mike, you're turning into a right old moaning energy zapper, says Charlie. Incorrect, right? I never said no more fireworks. I said, why do we have to have fireworks from the beginning of October to the bleeding end of January? And why do they have to be so noisy when you can have very good and equally spectacular silent fireworks? And I haven't said no to Halloween. I've just said, why do people have to bedeck their houses with all this Halloween guff? And why has it turned out that we now sort of have to sit cowering in our houses because people want to chuck eggs at the house because you're not giving them any trick-or-treating? That's what I'm talking about.
Eggs are expensive, mate. No one's throwing eggs.
If you know anything about me, Charlie, fun is my middle name, actually. Let's talk to LaDonna Harvey, though, because fun is also Donald Trump's middle name. Donald J. Trump, of course. LaDonna, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and I know that you're fun. I've been out.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much indeed. Maybe not on Halloween, but that's another story.
No,
but listen,
no.
This is a great story, this, isn't it, about Donald Trump? I mean, he has taken this garbage quote and run with it to such an extent. I've literally just been watching on Twitter a whole bunch of memes that are going out now with dancing wheelie bins, people getting into wheelie bins saying they're going to have to vote for Donald Trump. Let's just remind ourselves of how it all started with Joe Biden.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware,
where I'm
for
from.
good, decent, honorable
what he was
people.
going to say.
The only garbage I see floating out there is just supporters.
Yeah, that's a pretty
Puerto
clear
Rico, where
statement of nastiness about Trump supporters. He's tried to walk it back, hasn't he? He's tried to make out that that's not what he meant.
Sure. Yeah, and his people have come out and said, "Oh no, he didn't mean that. What he meant was the comedian who called Puerto Ricans garbage.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking about.
It's
No,
always
it wasn't.
somebody
Trump
else's
supporters are
fault.
garbage.
Yeah. But then Donald Trump gets this brilliant idea, which he says was given to him by one of his staff, when he was getting off the plane, I think it was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, to get into his very own garbage truck. And it's brilliant, you know, and let's see what his first reaction was to it.
So this outfit, you know, is when he called us all garbage. How stupid! What a stupid word. That blows deplorable away, don't you think? Of course, I thought irredeemable when she said deplorable or irredeemable. I thought irredeemable was actually worse, but deplorable seemed to catch up. But this garbage stuff blows it away. So I'm in this beautiful plane. I'm enjoying myself. Have a wonderful suit on. And one of my people came in and said, "Sir, you know, the word garbage is the hottest thing right now out there. The hottest thing out there. Sir, would you like to drive a garbage truck?"
Brilliant. it gets funnier as well. We haven't got time to play it all, but I mean, he's just a master of entertainment, and actually, since he's become funnier, he's more appealing, I think, isn't he?
Certainly he is. I mean, he's taken something that Joe Biden has done and rolled with it. He is a master level troll. We all know that. When it comes to trolling people, his opponents, he is better at it than almost anybody else.
Right.
And now he's got Kamala Harris on the back foot as she has to distance herself from what Joe Biden says.
Right.
And Joe Biden wasn't even a player in this race.
Right.
He has turned this into a next level campaign opportunity.
Absolutely, and of course anyone who does drive either a garbage truck or any other kind of truck is going to go, look at him, he's getting in a truck. Then he even made fun of himself on the stage, right? When, and we drove it about 2 feet and then I got out of it, He wasn't even pretending like most politicians would pretend, then I drove it for real, I just think he's kind of, he's at peak Trump at the moment and right on time.
He is, and we are a week out, less than a week out of the election, and we're still neck and neck.
Yeah.
But Harris is feeling these hits, and because she has no policy behind the empty suit, it's got her on the back foot.
And so, I mean, what happens between now and Tuesday? Is it more rallies? I mean, we were told pretty much the last big rally was in New York for Trump. She's not really going to do any more. What are they going to be doing for the next few days?
Mostly spending a whole lot of other people's money trying to convince those few people who still have their ballots on their kitchen tables to please vote for them. Millions of Americans have already voted.
Yeah.
That's a lost cause for both candidates. However they voted is done.
Right.
It's those who can't decide, those who don't like either one of them. Those people kind of in that middle ground who say, I don't really,
you end up voting early, and then you find out your candidate
those
dead,
are the ones that they have to
said something
convince, and Kamala Harris better do a
outrageous
good job. She's
that
only
you couldn't
leading
possibly
within a
vote
margin
for
of
him.
error.
Yeah.
And we know that the margin of error can be
What do I know?
quite wide.
Yeah, absolutely, it can. Well, we're going to be very excited about our big show coming up on Tuesday, which I hope you'll be able to join us for on Tuesday.
Signals the return of tax and spend Labour.
The budget raises taxes by £40 billion. Any Chancellor standing here today would have to face this reality.
So what's it going to mean for you? Injecting huge funds into the NHS and schools, but business bearing the brunt of the pain.
The largest real terms growth in day-to-day NHS spending outside of COVID since 2010.
But for drivers and drinkers, hopefully not at the same time, some good news as the Chancellor freezes the fuel duty and takes a penny off your pint.
So I have decided today to freeze fuel duty next year, and I will maintain for another year too. There will be no higher taxes at the petrol. There will be no higher taxes at the petrol pumps next year.
Well, we're going to be joined by the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, in just a moment.
In other news, a British man is among the 95 people killed in flash floods as they cause horror and devastation in Spain. We'll be live in Valencia shortly.
And also we're heading to Europe's biggest Halloween festival in Londonderry, where 100,000 visitors are going to take part in the fun.
Are you heading out trick-or-treating this evening and wondering whether you need a coat or umbrella? Well, for most of us, the answer is no, but I'll have the details coming up.
It's 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Loads of you getting in touch on the budget. Paul says, I thought Labour was going to reform the NHS, not give it more billions to waste.
It's an interesting one because we heard, was it last week or the week before, about all this tech, which the Health Secretary wants to bring on board, which will help people without them having to go into hospital. That's got to be paid for. Now, that's great if it works, if that's where some of the money is going. If it all just goes into the big pot, will we ever see it ever again? That's a concern.
Yeah, people want to see this root and branch reform. Anna says, stop saying that the carer's allowance has gone up. I'm a full-time carer for my 88-year-old father. I am not in a position in work outside of my caring situation for him. So my carer's allowance payment has remained the same. I work 24/7, 52 weeks of the year. I earn £80 a week. she says.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's gone up for some, but not others. Which is always, there's always people who will lose out on these things, unfortunately. I mean, this is the issue. Andrew says penny off your pint is smoke and mirrors for the gullible, and things like that. I mean, they are the sort of little white flags, aren't they? They're meant to keep us happy. They, take a penny off alcohol duty and a freeze on fuel duty. Doesn't stop your petrol going up, but it means they're not going to tax us anymore on the petrol, which is something. It's something, but it's still going to cost a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of money. Is that going to cost people jobs?
Possibly. On the pint issue, Chang says, can someone discuss and explain to me why 1 pence off a pint is relevant in 2024? Is this Chancellor so out of touch that she thinks the pints sold are not rounded up to the nearest 5p?
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm gullible on that one because I don't often buy a pint.
You don't actually drink, do you? So that doesn't affect you at all?
Not anymore. I'm trying to think what we did back in the day when I used to work behind the bar. I don't know if we rounded it up or not. Probably. Mary's been in touch with Stephen. How can you seriously think the NHS is going to improve? Well, I don't know that it is, Mary. I don't know that it is. I live in hope. But whether it will improve or not, I just don't know.
And all parties are agreed that it has to.
Well, this is the thing.
It needs to. For its own survival, it needs to. That's what West Streeting was saying the other day when that additional funding was announced for that tech. It was... It needed reform desperately in order to survive.
Well, it certainly is. So it's not about thinking anything is going to happen. It's just saying to you, Mary, well, this is what they say, and let's sort of vaguely hope that it will. Otherwise, we may as well all just go on to the nearest beach and shove our heads in the sand. Really, I mean, it's what do you do? What do you say with any government, as far as that goes, isn't it? As we wait for the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who's promised to pop on about now, let's just talk to our political correspondent Adam Cherry. There is an awful lot of money being raised here, but an awful lot of questions, Adam, as well, about what is going to go on, what impact this is going to have on growth in the UK.
Absolutely, yeah. This is an enormous package. 70 billion in spending, 40 billion in tax rises, and ultimately the question is, does the Chancellor have the mandate for this? This might be something which we'll present to her shortly. Does she have a mandate to implement such an enormous package? Well, just 4 months ago, it might seem like a long time, they promised a manifesto. They held a manifesto that said it was fully costed and no more taxes. They had no plans to rise any other taxes other than that document, and that had about £8.5 billion worth of tax hikes in it on things like non-doms and VAT on private schools. So it was a massive £40 billion tax rise, and essentially cobbling working people through this stealth tax on national insurance through employer contributions. Do people say, actually, we were promised hope and change and transparency, and actually,
it's got right on my nose
a little bit? It's ultimately a real question of trust and credibility, and something that she will have to grapple with, particularly if, as you say, growth is anemic and people feel the squeeze on their wage package.
What do you make of this black hole, this £22 billion black hole that we've heard so very much about, Adam, and the OBR actually have failed to substantiate that figure? Whoa! Of that £22 billion.
Yeah, I think it's a problem for them because as Rachel Reeves throughout the election campaign, and even before that for the last couple of years, has venerated the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, and promised to follow in their footsteps and pay much more attention to them than perhaps certainly Liz Truss did 2 years ago. Now the OBR are saying that her figures don't add up either, so she's in a bit of a catch-22 there. As you say, it's roughly half, 9-10 of spending.
Come on!
Their analysis yesterday, 22 billion. I mean, some of that comes from the pay rise, which
every time you sneeze, you lose a million billion brain cells. Apparently, look it up. Look it up. It's a prank. It's a prank.
Whether the public buy into it and buy into a longer-term view, as Rachel Reeves said yesterday, buy into a long-term view of growth.
Nobody knows nothing
of prosperity.
Yeah, well, look, in some respects, that's not a bad thing.
If they knew something, they'd have more money in my pocket every year.
governments for generations saying they don't take a long-term view.
If they knew what they were doing, I'd have more money in my pocket, wouldn't I? Every year goes by, you get richer, surely, if they knew what they were doing.
But the problem we feel with that is the
so what it says to me, because every year that goes by, I get more skin.
Absolutely right, Stephen. That's the point, isn't it?
Suggests to me
says that growth looks
that's their
1.5,
goal
1.6%.
to make us all
will go up higher than they would have done.
Skinter, poorer,
saying this openly, even in the budget.
or they absolutely don't know what they're doing. But what's the chances of not knowing what you're doing and you're always consistently poorer every year?
And whichever way you cut this is a massive tax and spend budget, and taxes have to be paid by somebody somewhere, and that will influence growth, which is supposed to be
it's too hard.
And Adam, just before we let you go, I just wanted to ask your thoughts on